To me, art is taking truth and transforming it into a completely different energy, whether it be painting, poetry, music. It's taking the truth that's inside of you and totally turning it into something different.
For me, dancing is a feeling, and art is truly a feeling as well. You have to have some type of connection to it in order for you to really flourish in whatever it is that you're doing.
I feel like it's the byproduct through discipline. Like, I feel like creativity spawns and then art is made.
I mean, to me, art is like that form of expression that comes from your soul. Each individual person has their own perception of what is creative or what looks good or what is considered an art. So art is like the purest form of who we are.
Art is kind of like a marriage, and something I've been committed to since I was a child. Even when I know I wasn't committed to it, I really didn't know how serious it was or how deeply embedded it was in me until I was a teenager. But it was something that was constant.
Art is definitely a talent, but to be a consumer or producer of art, all you have to do is have just like a general love for it, like a genuine, true passion. With photography specifically, it was maybe more so family oriented. My grandfather was into photography in his younger years, and as I grew up, it kind of became a way for us to bond. So I would say it brought my family closer. It brought somebody I look up to and respect. It kind of closed the gap in our age difference.
It was a Marvin Gaye album called I Want You, and the artist that did it was Ernie Barnes, the same artist that did all the paintings in Good Times. People know him from Good Times. Yes, the Sugar Shack painting. So as a 5-year-old, looking at this painting on this album cover, I was fascinated with this world on this flat surface that was created that looked like people that was around me. I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't paid attention to that before. And then it made me want to create a world on a flat surface.
Like junior high school, that's the first time I actually picked up a paintbrush. But I really didn't have the capacity to practice it very much. So once I got older and was at Georgia Tech, that's when I really started painting more seriously.
So Mama Ika was my first African dance teacher, and she was my, I want to say maybe like preschool teacher or something like that. It was at New Concept Development Center, which is an elementary school that pretty much kind of is a hub for artists, I would say.
I always loved to paint, and I was pretty good at it. I didn't really have to go to school for it or anything like that. It was just kind of like a natural talent. But I studied math and mechanical engineering, so naturally I didn't really have the capacity to take art courses growing up. And so I had to really pour into my STEM education. So I went to Spelman in Georgia Tech, studied math and mechanical engineering, like I mentioned. And when I was at Georgia Tech, it was extremely stressful. And I would paint to kind of get through that experience. And my friends would come over and they'd see my artwork and they say, hey, like, I would buy that. And I'm like, oh, so if you would spend money on it, if you would just volunteer that information to me, then I know it's genuine.
The thing that attracted me, it kept me really going, was like hip hop and like get into the whole graffiti scene. And that's literally, like, the art world is kind of like, you can't really say something is ugly because it's all like top mind, like it's objective and stuff. Like graffiti was like literally like, that shit's whack and then that's good.
For some reason, filmmaking has worked, and it has been something that has been continue to pull me in that direction. I don't know if that is because it's my purpose or just because I like money, but I don't want money to be like the main center of why. I think it's something that I gravitated towards me. Like I said, from when I was younger, like I understand through visual. So visually being able, that's like how I communicate. So I think that for me as a form of expression is how I communicate. So that's what kept me.
For me, it's a part of my identity. I don't really know anything else because it's not something that, was introduced to me later on in life, or I went somewhere like to school and it was exposed to me. Because it's been a part of my life since I was very young, I don't know anything different.
Like the very first time that you're able to create something out of nothing that was just a thought, but you created it exactly how you thought it, it's the most beautiful high in the world.
Spaces to create, spaces to grow, learn, and understand that there is opportunity out there. A lot of times people have, as creatives, we have these ideas in our head and they don't realize that it's possible because they never seen anybody try to do it or do something similar to what they want to do. And I think by creating those opportunities in neighborhoods where they don't have that will be important to fuel and spark that next creative and spark that next artist to really go for and pursue, probably what they're envisioning in their head, but not thinking it's possible.
It's just like everything. We need to realize that, like, us as a people, we have a very important role in the history of art. There's things that couldn't have happened if it wasn't for us. There would be no Picassos and things like that if it wasn't for us.
We have to make sure that we are, yes, inclusive, but first making sure that we are teaching our children before we start teaching everybody else.
Part of it is just not really understanding the full potential that arts could have in normal people's lives.
We need to kind of like revere the people who are doing these things. We need to understand the worth and the value of collecting art and archiving it, because that's our history. Our history is definitely tied toward art, the same way it's tied toward any other thing. Like, we revere our the other art forms, athletics, entertainment, music, but when it comes to like the paint and and whatever you put it on, or sculpting and things like that, we always see that as something that we do for kids. We need to have a more mature view about it.
I would say what's missing is like just a nice safe space to develop your craft.
So I think having collaborative spaces where different artists can get together, share their experiences, share their goals, and really collaborate and work together. I think one thing is art can feel kind of competitive at times, when I think that that's awesome because, yeah, I want to do as good as the person next to me, but my art form is mine and the next person's is theirs. So it shouldn't be such a competition type of thing because art is also about your brand. So if people like you, they'll want your art. So I don't believe you really have to feel like you're competing with the person right next to you. And so I want the tone of that to change, to be more like, hey, like, let's help each other out. Let's work together, because if I make it and you've helped me, then I want to lift you up, because when they're looking for other artists, I want to share my resources with you.
So I think when people observe artists, whether it's, a painter, a musician, or even a photographer, they have a direct message that they want to send with their media. And I think people admire that and respect that. So at the end of the day, I feel like that empowers others to get their story out in whatever form, even if it's not art.
Creative energy. It's also the term of like how iron sharpens iron. So I get better when I'm around other artists and when we're constantly critiquing each other's work.
When you see other people doing things, that's what gets you involved. When you realize you're the only person doing it, you don't care. Like, if you play with a yo-yo by yourself, you're going to like it for a while, and then you're going to toss it to the side. But, like, if you got, like, a whole clique of folk doing it, and it's, like, a big thing, and it's encouraged in the community, you're probably going to play with that yo-yo for an extra few years, So I think that helps out quite a bit.
Art is a form of freedom. And if people, and art is whatever you want it to be. And so if people understood that, then they would then know that they're free. Because if you are a dancer, if you are someone that just likes to paint, whatever it is, or if you're a writer, a storyteller, whatever it is that you do, that is art. and that is a way for you to be free. So a lot of times people live in this world thinking that they can't do things. But if you knew that you could be free just by simply doing what it is that you love, then you would be able to have more of an impact in your community. So if children understood that, then they would be able to grow a little bit more and be able to be more successful in life.
I
I
Love.
Love.
love
art.
Arts.
Art.
Hey, hey, hey.
What was the question again? Yes.